Hi, welcome to another episode of Coffee and No Code with me, Gary Hoberman. This is going to be a fun one. So I always look forward to these episodes. This one especially because in many recent client meetings, what I've been highlighting most has been really the way we actually have quality and support within Unqork. I've never seen anything like it. I used to spend every Friday morning as a CIO reviewing the outages for the previous week and talking about what was coming up the following week and basically talking about, do we have backup plans? Of course we have backup plans when we deploy this. There is no such thing as backup plans. They don't work. Unqork changed all that, of course, and it's been the most incredible journey watching, 4 nines uptime across every single client and every deployment, and watching as the more clients come in, the actual less issues there are. It's the first time ever I've seen it, and a lot of that is because of Bert as he came into our organization. Bert Amadi joins us today, who's been running the product platform operations, and his background will say it all. I'm going to let Bert, I welcome again. And just, it's been incredible since you've joined our company, the results, the metrics we show, the clients, the board, investors, it's just amazing. Just if you could real quick, give everyone your background would be amazing.
All right, thanks, Gary. And very excited to be joining you for this Coffee and No Code. So my background, a little bit of my background. So I was born in Nigeria. I grew up in London, and then I moved to the US. I've been with 4 major global investment banks, both in technology and in the business side, to executive level. So I've pretty much been in every single, like from a DBA to a Unix admin to a programmer to a support person. And then I spent the last 6 years before joining Unqork with Bloomberg running enterprise technology. So I've been at Unqork for 18 months, SVP, head of platform operations and services. So that's basically my background, Gary.
Awesome. And Bert, Bloomberg, a lot of stress. I think we're currently, and you're supporting for us, probably 350 million lines of code equivalency that we prevented from being written is what we would say just in production. In UAT, there's probably a billion more lines of code that we're waiting to deploy right now, and it's just amazing. So with that, so Bert, when I was a CIO and before that an MD at Citi and Wall Street, a lot of things that we did to actually run the organization, like I talked about, were Friday meetings to talk about what's coming up and where it's going. The challenge has always been, how do you know what's happening in your organization from an infrastructure point of view, deployment point of view, issues point of view, what's happening? And I was there in Citi when I was asked, could we create the metrics dashboard, the visibility into the organization to make sure we could see what's happening and better understand it. And same thing when I was a CEO at MetLife. Now, you've been in charge of these groups. So you're the one actually, and what's fascinating is your background. Each time you knew you had to basically create this, you did. And I'd love to hear just a little bit, just talk about like requirements to run your group and what you need from a business point of view first, and then we'll talk more.
So as Gary, like you said, the sort of scenario you created was every single organization I've been in, we've had this sort of meeting with the CIO and CTOs where they've talked about, okay, how do we prevent these issues? How do we track them? And usually what comes up from there is an action item to create some sort of a super app, a service hub, a dashboard that will do this. But the challenge has always been was getting the individual heads of department to agree that this was a top priority against all their ask in terms of the business ask and stuff. And with the sort of constraint we have with engineering, for example, the fact that the pool of engineering, when we're very restricted, we had to pick and choose what we do. So a project like this, in creating this, never got off the ground. It always dropped to the bottom until there was another outage. Then we'll have this meeting all over again. And then we say, okay, why didn't we do it? And then so on and so forth. So what has changed here, and I've done this, tried to build this tool almost in every single organization I've been in. And it's taken months, sometimes years to even build them. And really, and that's mainly because you needed a software engineer a lot of the times to build these apps. The operators or the support people could never do it. Now, when I came to Unqork, that changed. After I pretty much sat with my boss, the CTO, Bassam, and also VP engineering, where we thought about, okay, what would it take to create something like this? And the platform presented us a level, it sort of leveled the playing field that you can have the people in my team that were the problem solvers could actually build this themselves, which is kind of what we did here. We actually came up with a requirement and we built it. So there wasn't any sort of discussion with the heads of the businesses and stuff like that. And I like to always call Unqork, like it's more than no code, it's no coding, because of the fact that the abstraction of having to have someone write that code was now removed from my team. We had to focus on what was really critical, which was what was the actionable metrics that we wanted to see? What are the things we wanted to see? And just let the platform do the whole design and sort of implementation as far as the code is concerned.
That's so for everyone watching right now. So Bert in his previous life, I'm assuming even at Bloomberg, you spent years or whatever it might have been cost to basically build a dashboard to help you run your group and support the team.
Right.
What Bert did was he came to my senior leadership team meeting and basically presented to us, here's what he built it on Unqork. Now, so this is an example where we have one of our very senior leaders creating with their team their own Unqork app to run their team. So Unqork for Unqork, we like to say. And I was blown away and I said, Bert, we're doing this live. So I highlight quality to every single client. We're going to basically show them how we do it behind the scenes. So with that, Bert, if you want to go ahead and jump in, let's actually show the audience what you actually created and talk through it. And so basically let's walk through what it looks like when you log in and how you actually use this tool. Because I've already started to tell clients about this tool and I said, this is something we could basically templatize and deploy to every client and it would be amazing. So good, please take it away. Tell us what we're seeing here.
Okay, so what you're seeing here, like Gary just mentioned, the departmental OKRs or metrics. So here, and for this is a demo. So this is demo data. So you'll see it is not, some of it might not make sense, but you'll get the gist of it.
Yeah,
so,
we made sure, like, again, client data, client PII data is the most critical thing for all of us here. So when we saw this first demo, we said, let's make sure white label, no client data, no real data. And this is what you're seeing here, but this is the equivalent of the production system, the difference being the data, right? So this is what you're using today to run. So yes, let's take it away, please. Thanks.
And also one of the beauties about this tool, well, is the fact that it is very secured. Access is very controlled based on the role that you're working. So if you're a manager, for example, you'll see certain things. If you're a support person, you'll see certain things. So, and those things were things that was always a challenge in my previous career. My previous life rather than here, for example. So here you see the total number of clients, the environments, and our SLA in sort of dealing with our customers. We also have an uptime metrics as well. So you can track this and also the average cost of a support tickets and the changes. And also you can actually see it over time as well if you wanted to see it over time. So you can see what's happened over time, how you're improving, what once was a challenge, and so on and so forth. Like, it's not just support. You can also track metrics in the QA environments, like defect resolution prior to changes coming into the environment. So you can see it. And also you can see at the bottom here, Pivot is our bot system, which is how often that is being used in terms of answering client questions and stuff. So that's kind of the overview that you get. This is something like the manager of the group would have to run. And then the tool also allows you to see a sort of a cost analysis. It's like a deeper dive in the cost of your support team, how much they are taking per customers and stuff like that, how many hours they're spending with the customer, and also the number of tickets they have as far as that customer is concerned. As you can see, like we said, it is dummy data, for example. So you can actually see a breakdown for the individual customers. And again, it allows you to break it down to individual, like monthly cost specific to that customer. So you have a granular view of which customers that are taking a lot of your times and which one you're spending a lot of the times with. Then the next
and Bert, just to clarify, like, so the data that you're seeing here, first off, all these are Unqork components, right? So everything you did was a drag and drop, the chart, the pie chart we see there, the KPIs we see there, but the actual data itself, a lot of this data is coming from Unqork, the engine, which is really what we're running. And again, it's dummy data for everyone there because, as I mentioned, we're 4 nines uptime, and the actual environments were probably 700 environments for customers at this point. It's kind of crazy to think about that, but basically the data itself isn't just coming from Unqork. A lot of it is coming from Unqork, but you're pulling data from all different systems that customers themselves probably use internal already, and you're aggregating the data and consolidating it using Unqork, all built into the process, correct?
Absolutely. Like the idea here was a lot of this data exists in a lot of the firms. It is their own, it's like their book of records kind of thing. So it's their source data. And what we've done is kind of pulled it in and sort of created derived analytics from it without any single line of code being written. So that's what we've done. So it keeps the book of records the way it is without actually, so the integration is very seamless as far as this tool is concerned.
Awesome.
Okay. And then, so the next step talks about, it allows you to bucket your customers based on sort of which customers are in the reds or in the green based on how much they are costing you. So what you can see here is a kind of metrics where you can see different customers in how much they're costing you on a monthly basis and the number of tickets if it exceeds a value and so on and so forth. Then the last piece is really the TCO, which is more about the infrastructure cost. So this tab kind of combines infrastructure plus production support costs into one single dashboard. So you can see based on your operating cost of it, is that customer profitable as far as the infrastructure is concerned. And we've also highlighted some metrics here in terms of what it's, you can actually put alerting on this to say if a customer breaches a certain threshold, then you need to be notified of something so we can look at what is going on.
And I would say, Bert, if you were a bank and supporting your customers, institutional banks and customers, or an asset manager supporting, or even insurance company, like in that same analogy, they could use something like this to support their customers and understand how many tickets are coming in, the cost, what's the outages. However, if you were a bank and you wanted to basically say, hey, I'm the central technology team supporting all business lines in the bank, the analogy there is a customer is a business division, right? So you could actually say which division is costing you most to support.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then you could go back and knock them over the head if they're actually deploying things they shouldn't be deploying. But that's exactly how you see it turn out.
That's how, yes, exactly. That's how this would be. Absolutely. And then the next tab really talks about changes of like, what are the changes that goes on in our environment? Now, I will explain later why this is important. The reason why this is important is when we talk about a little bit about outages. So it kind of gives you an inventory of how you're split in terms of what you're looking at here, like Azure versus AWS and so on and so forth. Now,
and actually that's a good point because we are cloud agnostic. So we have to be able to support Microsoft, Amazon, and Google all the same way. And with that, basically this consolidates all the regions, all the localities, everything into one place to see it.
That is correct. Yes. And then, so this kind of gives you a layout, but when this becomes more powerful is, let's say, for example, you wanted to draw down on a specific client that is also having, that's having a problem, or you want to look at, for example. So you can do a quick search. And what happens here is that it will dynamically reallocate based on the search you're doing. So you can go back. If you go back, it will dynamically change to that specific client or what that customer is costing you and stuff like that. So you don't have to, the tool is clever enough to do that. The same thing if you wanted to go back to the sort of a high level, it will drill down to that specific customer. Now, let's say that customer is having a problem, for example, and there was a P1 that came in. One of the things that we know in the support world is that what has changed is usually a trigger to say that's what we could have caused it. So what you would do, you will click this. This actually just dynamically picks up that client and checks like what platform changes happen for that customer. It also looks at what configuration changes that happen to that customer. It will also tell you the specific change itself that changed on the customer. So you can see how we were able to achieve the SLAs that we have. We can pretty much drill down on very, very quickly just by a click of a button. And all this was written without a single line of code being written.
That's amazing. I'm trying to picture if we had this when I was a CIO at a Fortune 50 company, what would be like those Friday meetings. Probably wouldn't even be there. But the idea here is with Unqork, there's no code. So the two possible changes to impact a release would be, number one is, do we change something on the platform?
Yep.
And what's cool is we have never done that. That's actually a cool thing, is we're making changes all the time, but because of all the testing happening in UAT, automatically detecting it. And then the second thing is, did the customer push a change to their no code configuration, so their
That's
definition? So we could quickly see what they actually did and who did it and when they did it.
absolutely.
And built in is the ability to roll back, right? So if the
That is
customer
correct.
chose to one click roll back, this is the ITSM view of the world that we've been missing. Like, I
That
could
is,
tell you, like, this is what I would have killed for in
yeah.
any of the Fortune 50 companies.
And even if you wanted to do something like this, it will be 4, 5, 6 systems to do this. You would have to click here, check here, check here, and check here. It would be near to impossible to do this in one single pane or one single application without writing a single code before. Okay. And then, like, well, so that kind of shows you what happens in the environment. Now the question is, okay, if you wanted to fix the issue, what are the things you can do? Like, there's a self-service tool here, like, for example, which allows you to link to the different different directories all available in Unqork. So you can link to your community hub. You can link to your global data support database, so you can see previous issues that have happened, to see if you can mimic those, if you can sort of use those to sort of resolve your issue. The other thing is that you can also see your release notes as well, so that you can see what has changed and stuff like that. You can also, like, you can also do this, for example. If, for example, you wanted to sort of, you're a client and you wanted to sort of, before you enter a ticket, for example, it will drag you to an FAQ here, so that you can actually see if this is something that you can self-serve, rather than trying to put a ticket, which could also take you some time. The same thing also, it allows you, one of the things that, why this tool was very, very quick to do and very easy to do, was that while we were building it, we were able to test it as well. So it's like shifting the narrative from whoever built it should be able to test it at a unit level. So we were able to connect to the UDLC toolkit that was built in Unqork. So, and I would demonstrate like how much savings we got from this, in terms of, because we had to do some analysis based on our history, like what are the things we did before and what we did now, how much it would have cost and how much time we would have saved. And I'll show that in a second. So
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, UDLC, it's the Unqork development life cycle. So what it is we have a specialized team inside of Unqork who are creating Unqork apps with Unqork for Unqork, meaning our Unqork creators and administrators and individuals like Bert are actually using an Unqork app to manage Unqork, which is kind of cool. So, hey, Turing test, we actually did a white paper, we passed it, it's awesome. But it's amazing to see how quick we could build an entire ITSM toolset without actually any code.
yes, and test it as well at the same time. So yeah. So that's really the complete. As you can see, it's a very rich, like, we're actually calling it, like, this is actually a super app kind of thing. Like, that's the name we're calling it. Like, it doesn't do just calling it to UCMS doesn't do it the service. Like, it is a super app. Like, multiple personas can use this, and multiple groups can also use this. Now, because we're getting short on time, I wanted to also show like why this is the way, like, especially, like, I want to be sort of explicit about this, like, for this kind of scenario, like this expletive sort of scenario of building an ITSM or a service hub, this is the cheapest way to do it. And I'll show you some of the analysis we did. So this was an analysis we did based on no coding versus pro coding. So I like to call it that, because it's actually, I think no code is a little bit, is the present participle that's important here, is the no coding. So the idea here was that we picked, on the left side is UCMS, what happened. And on the right side is, if we're doing pro coding, what has happened in our previous career and stuff like that. So we put in some aggregate in terms of average salaries and stuff, and how much it took. And then, but what is most important here is that the project delivery time, we built this in 3 weeks. This whole thing was built in 3 weeks. In our previous sort of in our previous life, for example, my previous life, for example, this would have taken almost 6 months to build, 24 weeks. It would have taken a long time to build this. And that's just being conservative. We kept the resources. We kept the resources the same. Let's say you needed 2 operators versus 2 software engineers. And then now this is another benefit. The testing here was only 2 days. And that's me being very generous. Literally, we tested it as we were building this stuff. And then here, for example, it will take 5 days to do it if you're doing pro code. It actually would take much longer than that. And when you do the maths and stuff like that, it comes to, it is 92% cheaper to do this. Like, I want to be, this is for this specific use case. It is that, even if we decide, for example, let's say, for example, you give them, let's say you reduce it for 20. It's still 91%, like literally.
I love, by the way, I love that the calculator itself is
Yeah, so, yeah, we wanted to show that in terms of, okay, as we're building it and changing it, we wanted to be able to say, okay, what is the return of investment on this? How much would this cost versus if we were writing it in a code? So we wanted to build it like our motto, like my group, the idea is we are trying to do everything in Unqork. Is building an Unqork for Unqork is what we're trying to do here. So everything we are doing, like this is, I would say this is a dream that I never thought would happen in my career. Having been here, like it levels the playing field. And if you think of now, I always say to myself, why were software engineers better at debugging application when a customer called? We always escalated for them. That's because they're the ones that build. Now, as we move to more people building on this, more clients building on this, and you have support teams actually building their own tool on this, what do you think will happen? Absolutely, those support people are going to become better debuggers, just like the engineers were when they were building it themselves. So that's kind of how, that was the sort of angle.
Yeah, that's, it's funny, Bert, you mentioned DBA. Like I actually back in 94 got certified as a site-based DBO. I went through all the training certifications, passed everything. I didn't want to be a DBA or DBO. I wanted to basically understand the way a database index worked. I just wanted to just to basically debug it better, code it,
Yes.
and that's it. So you're absolutely right. The more people going through this, they understand it, they support it better.
Yes.
And it is amazing. And your background is engineering. You're an engineer by background, so you understand how to create software. So it's just enabling you to do it, I guess, 91% cheaper than it was before, which is amazing in a fraction of the time. So that's what we like. For those who don't know, also the UDLC toolset, we have what Bert mentioned was testing. We have a brand new test coverage tool where you can actually look at an app and see each of the test cases, what's passed, what isn't, and basically what's missing. So what's the gaps in test coverage before you deploy? And that's without even taking into account 600 times less defects. So like that's where your starting point is, which is amazing. So Bert, I know we're running right up at a time. Any last words for you, for the audience?
My last word is, any customer or any of our customers or any of the banks that really want to improve the way they support their clients, and in a way to drive the cost of supporting it, because this tool can be used by a lot of the offshore teams, like I've run offshore team that did support. This is a tool that can be used by them with the right permissioning and stuff. So as you can see, the clicking, like I'm not as technical as I used to be, but this was very simple for me to navigate. So you can imagine any of your offshore team can actually use this tool. And this will actually improve your sort of first resolution percentage, because while they have this to the first person, should be able to resolve issues just by using this tool. It doesn't have to be escalated.
It's amazing. It really is, to think about what you created, and this is a commercial product in itself in many ways. And we've been, as I said, I've been highlighting this to clients, like, by the way, yes, we'll help you with your account opening system for a bank, but by the way, you might also want to look at this, or you want to look. So it's incredible. And Bert, thank you. It's been amazing having you within the leadership within the company, and your team, and what they do for us is true, full transparent. So it's amazing. And thanks. I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving, everyone, and appreciate joining us for another episode of Coffee and No Code. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, Gary. Thanks, everyone.